With us now is Elisa Moed, the CEO of Travelujah. Elisa, give us your sense here of what the Israeli government is doing, is trying to do. Are you actually able to organize Jewish groups for the next few days and not Christian groups? What's going on?
Hi, Jeff. Yeah, well, this policy is completely unfair and totally illogical. The decision that the government made, honestly, runs totally counter to our interests, to Israel's interests, to all of our interests. You know, what if France or England decided to only allow Christians to come? What would we be saying then? Christian tourism represents about 60% of all tours to Israel prior to COVID-19. We had about 4.5 million people here in total. Over 3 million of them were Christians, and many of them were Christian students who come here, who don't have a relationship with Israel, who learn about Israel, who learn about our democracy, our very special democracy, one in which both Arabs and Jews are now part of our government. They see the multiculturalism that goes on here, and they return as advocates for Israel. It's awful because we're really, instead of embracing Christians and allowing them the opportunity to come in here, we're turning them away, and that is going to have very, very difficult long-term, very difficult, very challenging, I think, very destructive long-term impact.
Is it discriminatory? Would you say, Elisa? Is it a discriminatory policy against Christians who aren't, but they're not citizens of the country?
I don't want to say that it's a discriminatory policy insofar as that is the intent. I can't speak for the government. I think it's illogical. I think it's unfair. I don't think it's thought out. I think unfortunately, what will happen, what can happen if this is not walked back and is not, reconsidered. What unfortunately I think could happen is that these Birthright students go back, and instead of talking about how wonderful their experience is and advocating for Israel when they get back on campus, they are now going to be in a position to have to defend the fact that they came here on a policy that other students on campus may feel is discriminatory. So but with this kind of a policy, we're unfortunately kind of helping, it could help some of these movements that we don't want to see flourishing anymore in the United States that are, anti-Israel. So I think from so many different perspectives, but I think the most, important thing here is that, the Christian communities that come here, they not only have a religious connection to the Holy Land, to Israel, but they also really want to come and learn about Israel. And they go back as probably even some of the most significant ambassadors for us when they return, and they don't have an opportunity to come here next year with a school trip. These are not free trips. They if they're out of school, then they move on. But to get some of these students here, there's programs like I24 and Maccabee Task Force, and there's legislative programs. I have a university that's supposed to be coming January 2nd. There's a foreign policy program. They're coming here to learn about the strategic interests of in Israel. These are really important programs. They graduate, they're gone. They'll never have that opportunity again. We're losing all these future ambassadors.
If it wasn't if it wasn't for Omicron, if it wasn't for COVID, sure, I'd imagine the two big periods, the month surrounding Easter and surrounding Christmas. Normally, how many groups would you be helping to organize? How many tour groups and organizations would you be assisting right now that is now slammed shut?
Yeah, we have typically there would be probably over 500,000 people that might be coming here in the month of December and early January to experience Christmas, to come on all sorts of different programs. That's in total, and we would be working with probably many hundreds of people that would be coming here on groups.
Yeah.
We've had to cancel just in the last week a number of groups, and then there's also the individuals. There's this poor man from Long Island who is still holding on. And let me tell you, still holding on up until last night. His dream was to only come to Israel. His wife was going to Rome. He was coming here for the Holy Land, and they were going to meet up afterwards. And this was his, coming here all by himself on a totally private tour. And, when will he have a chance to come back? I don't know. He's an older man. There are many people like that who are just so hungry to come. And I have to say that, when I think of our Jewish values and our the importance that we put on tikkun olam and the universal helping of people, that's what we're about. And this policy just doesn't do that.
Elisa, thank you so much for being with us with Travelujah. Great to have you and giving us your perspective on the Zoom show. And despite Omicron